What if I told you that, like, the sound of a heavy thunderstorm outside your window isn't just background noise?
Right, people usually just tune it out.
Yeah. Or they hate it, but it's actually this neurological trigger that could make you, way more creative.
More focused, too.
Exactly. And significantly less stressed today. I
Right.
mean, picture this for a second. You wake up on a Saturday morning, you haven't even opened your eyes yet, but you hear it.
That steady, heavy drumming against the glass.
Yeah, it's pouring. And how do you usually react? I mean, if you're listening or anything like most people, it's just an immediate groan.
Oh, for sure.
You think about canceled plans, gloomy skies, and like that claustrophobic feeling of just being stuck inside.
It's a completely natural reaction, that groan. But it is a reaction based on a very specific and frankly exhausting modern mindset.
So true.
We are so deeply conditioned to view rain as an obstacle to our productivity, right?
Mhm.
Rather than recognizing it as, well, a necessary natural mechanism.
Exactly. And that is the core mission of our deep dive today. We are unpacking this whole stack of research centered around a fascinating framework.
The Life Fuel 365 framework.
Yes, Life Fuel 365. The entire premise is about flipping the script on bad weather, like transforming the so-called inconvenience of a rainy day into a highly intentional invitation.
An invitation for well-being, creativity, and, genuine growth.
Right. It's about finding inspiration in the everyday instead of putting your life on hold until the conditions are perfectly sunny.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even begin with shifting a mindset that is so ingrained in us?
Well, we have to start by zooming out, I think. Looking at the broader stage of how we live today. We exist in a culture that aggressively, almost exclusively, celebrates the constant hustle.
Always grinding.
Right. We are told that productivity is king. We need to be maximizing every waking hour.
It's exhausting just thinking about
It
it.
really is. So when a weather event suddenly forces us to be confined indoors, it feels like a loss of control, like a cage.
Yeah, you feel trapped. But if we look at the natural world, nature operates in distinct cycles. Cycles of exertion and recovery. A rainy day is actually nature's way of hitting the brakes for us.
Oh, wow. I like that.
It is giving us permission to pause.
Yeah.
It's an enforced rest period that our central nervous systems desperately need, even if, our culture tells us we should be fighting against it.
I love that reframing. Nature just stepping in, taking the keys and saying, hey, you need a timeout.
Exactly.
But I think there's a practical hurdle here, because before we can actually enjoy the rest that a rainy day offers, we have to look at the immediate physical space we're suddenly, trapped in.
Your indoor environment.
Right. Because if you're going to be stuck inside, the state of your inside environment really matters. The framework leans heavily into this idea of crafting an indoor sanctuary first.
Yeah, the core concept is that our physical environment directly dictates our mental state.
Absolutely.
The contrast is stark when you look at the cognitive research. A cluttered room literally registers to the human brain as chaos.
Pure chaos.
Right. Whereas an organized space acts as a personal retreat. When you are confined to a single environment, every piece of visual information in that space is being processed by your brain.
Whether you actively realize it or not.
Exactly.
Right, but I have to push back on this a little bit. If the whole point of a rainy day is that nature is giving us permission to rest, isn't, like, cleaning and organizing the exact opposite of resting?
That is a very fair point.
Because I know myself. If I decide to declutter to relax, I'll start with the desk drawer, and 3 hours later, I've completely torn apart my kitchen pantry.
You're covered in dust.
Covered in dust, and I'm definitely not relaxed. So how do you actually enforce a boundary there?
Well, that is the trap, right? But the strategy here is entirely about scale and intention.
Yeah.
The goal isn't a deep clean of your entire house where you're scrubbing the baseboards with a toothbrush.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, no baseboards. The focus is on micro wins. Decluttering a single drawer, organizing just one shelf in the closet, or even taking 10 minutes to tackle digital clutter.
Oh, digital clutter is huge.
It's a massive, invisible drain on our energy. Just unsubscribing from 5 promotional emails or deleting 3 unused apps frees up cognitive load.
That feels way more manageable.
And if you are worried about tearing apart the kitchen, you just set a timer for exactly 10 minutes. When it goes off, the cleaning stops.
Okay, the timer idea makes a lot of sense. It's sort of like a cluttered room is like having way too many browser tabs open in your brain.
That's a great way to put it.
Because when you walk into a messy space, your brain is trying to load all those visual tabs at once. You see a stack of mail and your brain says, unpaid bill, need to do that.
You see laundry and it says chore pending.
Exactly. So closing a few of those tabs or just clearing off one single surface actually frees up the mental RAM you need to finally power down.
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychology behind that exact feeling. Visual clutter literally competes for your attention.
It's actively draining you.
Right. It acts as a visual reminder of unfinished tasks, which elevates your cortisol levels, your primary stress hormone.
Wow. Just from looking at a messy desk.
Exactly. By letting go of excess physical items, even on a micro scale, like a single desk surface, you are physically teaching your brain how to let go of unnecessary mental stress.
It's a tangible external action that creates an invisible internal shift.
Beautifully said.
And once you've closed those physical browser tabs, you can start layering in the atmosphere to really build that sanctuary. The research gets wonderfully specific about this.
It really does.
It's not just about removing the negative, like the clutter. It's about what you proactively add. Swapping harsh blue light overheads for, like, soft, warm lighting.
Lighting makes such a difference.
Huge difference. Adding cozy textures like a weighted blanket. And my personal favorite area of the research, aromatherapy.
There is deep science to aromatherapy that often gets overlooked, honestly. Yeah. The olfactory bulb, which processes smell, has a direct, hardwired line to the amygdala and the hippocampus.
The emotional and memory centers of the brain.
Right. Scent bypasses the logical processing centers entirely. It goes straight to the emotional core.
Which explains why lavender is such a powerhouse. I mean, it's universally cited as promoting calm and deep relaxation.
Because it physically slows down heart rate and blood pressure.
But if you don't want to just hibernate and sleep all day, the framework suggests using citrus, like sweet orange or lemon.
For a gentle boost of dopamine.
Yeah, to counter the gloominess outside. And then there's cedarwood, which I found really interesting. They describe it as providing a grounding connection to nature.
Yes. Cedarwood and other woodsy scents often contain compounds called phytoncides.
Phytoncides.
Yeah, they are the organic compounds trees emit to protect themselves. But when humans inhale them, they have been shown to lower blood pressure and boost immune function.
That is wild.
It really grounds you, which is vital when a storm has physically separated you from the outdoors. That's also why incorporating actual physical nature indoors is highly recommended.
Right, the biophilia hypothesis, the idea that humans possess this innate tendency to seek connections with nature.
Exactly.
Just having pet-safe plants around, like spider plants or Boston ferns are great examples. They can actually improve indoor air quality and reduce psychological stress.
And if you don't have a green thumb, you don't even need a living plant.
Oh, true.
A bowl of smooth river stones or some dried eucalyptus works too. You're just giving your brain a visual anchor to the natural world.
I love that. So now you've curated an environment. You have a space that is cognitively clear, neurologically calming, and biophilically connected to the outside world.
All while staying perfectly dry.
Right. Which brings us to a really interesting pivot point. Once your space isn't screaming at you with visual noise, you suddenly realize your body is.
Yes, the body speaks up.
So how do we actually exist in this sanctuary? Because my immediate default temptation is to sink into that couch, wrap myself in that cozy texture, and not move a single muscle for 8 straight hours.
That sounds amazing,
But the LifeFuel 365 approach pushes back on that hard. They emphasize this concept of mindful movement.
because rest does not equate to total immobilization. Our bodies are biomechanically designed to move,
Even on a rest day.
especially on a rest day. If you stagnate in one position for a whole day, your fascia tightens up, your circulation slows, and you actually end up feeling more lethargic.
You wake up from a nap feeling stiffer than when you lay down.
Exactly. But the key distinction here is that this is not a workout.
Right.
You are not trying to achieve peak performance, burn calories, or, hit a personal best. You are moving with intention, specifically to identify and release tension.
I look at it like putting your smartphone on a slow charger instead of a rapid charger.
Oh, I like that.
You're not plugging your body in to hit 100% battery in 10 minutes so you can sprint out the door. You're just gently, steadily keeping the battery from draining while you run background updates.
That is the perfect analogy. If we connect this to the bigger picture, modern life constantly demands that we push through fatigue.
Just push through the pain.
Right. We are taught to ignore physical discomfort and just grind it out at our desks. Mindful movement on a rainy day teaches us the exact opposite.
It forces us to listen.
Yes, it forces us to listen to the body's signals and recognize the vital difference between a healthy physical challenge and unnecessary strain.
And looking at the specific examples in the research, it's all about gentle restoration. Restorative yoga is highlighted heavily.
Poses like child's pose or the cat-cow stretch to wake up the spine
And my absolute favorite, legs up the wall.
is such a good one.
Which, by the way, if you listening haven't tried it, it is exactly what it sounds like. You lie on your back, scoot your hips to the wall, and rest your legs vertically against it.
Simple but effective.
It is incredibly relaxing, but I never really knew why it felt so good until I looked at the physiology.
Well, the physiology of legs up the wall is brilliant. By reversing the effect of gravity on your lower body, you are helping venous blood flow return to the heart with zero muscular effort.
Zero effort. I love the sound of that.
Right. Your heart doesn't have to pump as hard. When your heart rate slows down, it signals the baroreceptors in your neck to tell your brain, we are safe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this stimulates the vagus nerve, which immediately downregulates your sympathetic nervous system, your fight-or-flight mode, and kicks on the parasympathetic nervous system.
Which is your rest and digest mode.
Exactly.
It's literally a biological hack for relaxation. The framework also brings up Qigong, describing it as meditation in motion.
Focusing on the smooth flow of energy and deep breathing rather than muscular effort.
But even if you don't want to do structured poses, I love their suggestion for slow indoor walking. Literally just walking from your living room to your kitchen, but moving at half speed.
Paying hyper-close attention to the way your heel strikes the floor.
Right. Your posture, your breath. It sounds a little silly, but when I tried it, it actually felt incredibly grounding. You're keeping the blood circulating without spiking the heart rate.
It creates a physiological state of calm readiness. You aren't exhausted and flooded with lactic acid from a heavy workout.
But you aren't completely sedentary and stiff either.
You are perfectly balanced.
Okay, so the external sanctuary is set. The body is tuned up and on the slow charger. Now, we dive into the internal shift. Because once the body is primed and the space is clear, the mind finally has the bandwidth to breathe.
Yes.
And the really cool part is how the rain itself actually facilitates this mental shift.
This is where the magic of a rainy day really happens. When the external world is forced to quiet down, the internal world can finally be heard.
And the sound of the rain is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. We talked earlier about white noise. The steady rhythm of rain acts as a natural acoustic blanket.
It masks all those jarring, high-frequency neighborhood distractions.
The sirens, the construction, the neighbor's dog. But it's more than just masking sound, right?
It is. Rain is often technically classified as pink noise.
Pink noise.
Yeah, pink noise has a deeper, richer frequency profile than standard white noise. Research shows that listening to pink noise actually slows down your brain waves.
Slow them down.
Yes, guiding them into the deeper delta waves associated with restorative sleep and deep relaxation. It actively lowers sympathetic nervous system arousal.
It is quite literally nature's sound bath.
Exactly what it is.
And within that natural sound bath, the research heavily encourages leaning into reflection, taking 5 minutes for a body scan meditation.
Just moving your awareness slowly from the top of your head down to your toes.
Noticing where you're holding stress without actively trying to fix it, just acknowledging it, and then taking that clarity and channeling it into journaling.
The prompts they provide are fantastic.
They really are. Questions like, what limiting belief am I holding on to that I'm ready to let go of? Or what does a genuinely fulfilling life look like to me minus everyone else's expectations?
Very deep questions.
That is heavy, deep stuff to tackle on a random Tuesday afternoon.
It is profound work. But when else do we actually give ourselves the grace and the silence to ask those questions?
That's a good point.
A rainy day offers the necessary stillness to ponder them without the pressure of an immediate deadline or a calendar notification going off.
That actually brings up a distinction in the framework that I wanted to ask you about. It talks a lot about this personal growth aspect, but it draws a very hard line between setting goals versus setting intentions.
Right.
Now, we're constantly told by every productivity guru out there to set concrete, actionable goals, SMART goals.
Sure.
Intentions, by contrast, have always felt a little fluffy to me. Why does this approach place such a heavy emphasis on intentions when we're stuck indoors?
It's a crucial question, and the cognitive distinction between the two is vital. Think of it this way. Goals are inherently outcome-based and future-oriented.
Okay.
A goal is, I'm going to read 1 book a month. It's measurable, which is great, but it also instantly creates a failure state. You either achieve it or you fail.
Oh, I see.
Intentions, however, are rooted entirely in your values and your present state. And intention is, I intend to be more present in my conversations, or I intend to approach challenges with curiosity instead of frustration.
So a goal is an item you cross off a list, but an intention is a continuous way of being.
Exactly. Goals provide a destination, but intentions focus on who we want to become along the journey. Goals are the map. Intentions are the compass.
I love that.
On a rainy day, when your physical actions and your ability to achieve external goals are naturally limited by the weather, adjusting your compass, your internal intentions, is a much more profound use of time than just writing out another anxiety-inducing to-do list.
The map versus the compass, I really, really like that. It removes the pass-fail anxieties.
Yeah.
We've set our compass. We are internally centered. This leads us to the final phase of the framework, the outward ripple.
The outward ripple.
Yeah, the core idea here is that a rainy day doesn't actually mean total isolation. Once we've nourished ourselves internally, cleared the space, stretched the body, set our intentions, we have this newly restored reservoir of energy,
Right.
and we can direct that energy outward.
Yes. And the framework highlights two specific avenues for this outward ripple: lifelong learning and meaningful human connection.
Let's talk about the learning piece first, because I love how they phrase this. They refer to curiosity as a muscle.
It absolutely is.
If you don't actively flex it, it atrophies. A rainy day is basically the gym for your curiosity. You can finally pick up that massive biography that's been acting as a coaster on your nightstand.
We all have one of those.
Right? Or you can watch a documentary about deep sea biology. Or hop online and finally learn the basics of manual photography.
What this does neurologically is shift your brain's reward system from passive consumption like doom-scrolling social media, which gives cheap, fleeting dopamine hits, to active engagement.
You are building neural pathways.
You are feeding your mind. And that state of active, engaged curiosity perfectly primes you for the second avenue.
Human connection. Here's where it gets really interesting to me. The research points out this massive, beautiful irony.
Yes.
By being physically forced indoors and geographically separated from the rest of the world because of a storm, we actually have the perfect psychological setup to foster much deeper social connections than we do on a bright, busy, sunny day.
This raises an important question, doesn't it? It seems completely counterintuitive, but when you analyze social behaviors, it makes perfect sense.
How so?
On a sunny, beautiful day, we are often rushing. We are moving from the park to the cafe to a gathering. We are surrounded by dozens of people, but the interactions are highly transactional or entirely surface level.
Right, it's just, hey, great to see you, love that shirt, as you're literally running past them to catch a train.
Exactly.
But on a rainy day, the framework suggests we finally have the bandwidth to stop and reach out. To call a mentor we haven't spoken to in 6 months. Or walk across the hall and talk to a neighbor.
And not just to complain about the rain, but to have a real conversation.
Asking questions like, what has genuinely inspired you recently?
That is a remarkably powerful question to ask someone. And what the data validates here is that human connection isn't measured by the sheer volume of interactions you have in a 24-hour period.
It's quality over quantity?
It is measured entirely by the authenticity and depth of those interactions. This forces us to ask how often we let digital distractions steal our presence, even when we are sitting on the couch, right next to the people we love most.
Oh, constantly. The television is on, the phone is in hand, the laptop is open. We are physically adjacent, but mentally miles apart.
Exactly.
The framework explicitly challenges us to practice true presence, putting away the screens, turning toward the person, and making actual sustained eye contact, giving them the full weight of your attention.
And there's deep neurobiology at play there, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sustained eye contact triggers a process called limbic resonance, where your nervous systems actually begin to co-regulate and sync up with one another. It builds profound empathy and trust. The rain gives you the societal excuse to stay inside, but practicing true presence gives you the ability to actually be with the people inside with you.
It's treating attention as an actual resource, maybe the most valuable one you have.
Absolutely.
So bringing this all together, we've walked through the external shift of decluttering our immediate space and lowering visual cortisol. We've hit the physical shift of mindful movement and engaging the parasympathetic nervous system.
Right.
We've explored the internal shift of setting our compass with intentions and the outward ripple of active learning and deep connection. This is the overarching Life Fuel 365 mindset.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
It really is. It's about fundamentally changing the central question of a rainy day. Instead of waking up, hearing the rain, and asking, what am I missing out on today? We should be asking, What unique opportunity is this weather offering me right now?
It is a radical, empowering shift in perspective.
Hmm.
You are moving from a mindset of limitation and victimhood to one of possibility and agency.
So, what does this all mean for you, listening right now? The challenge laid out by this research is to consciously, proactively build a rainy day wellness routine before the next storm even hits.
Start planning it now.
Yeah, maybe your routine is brewing a specific cedarwood tea, doing 5 minutes of legs up the wall, journaling one intention, and watching an art documentary. But the real secret, the ultimate payoff of this framework,
It bleeds into the rest of your life.
yes, if you build that routine, those habits of intentional rest, curiosity, and true presence won't stay confined to bad weather. They will eventually bleed into your everyday, sunny day routines as well. You stop waiting for the sky to fall to give yourself permission to take care of your mind and body.
That is the ultimate goal, integrating that peace into all weather. And I think it leaves us with something even deeper to consider.
What's that?
If a rainy day gives us permission to pause, simply because we finally acknowledge and surrender to nature's slowed-down rhythm, what other natural cycles are we stubbornly fighting against? Think about the changing of the seasons, the naturally shorter, darker days of winter, or even the phases of the moon. What other ancient natural rhythms are we ignoring in our modern hustle that might also be quietly, constantly giving us permission to change our pace?
Wow, that entirely changes how I'm going to look at the calendar, not just the weather app. Next time you wake up and hear that heavy drumming against the glass, don't groan. Close a few of those mental browser tabs, stretch out, and ask yourself, what opportunity is waiting for you inside?